What I'm about to tell you may come as a surprise, maybe even a shock. If you're seeing this right now, it's not random. You've been operating outside the system long enough to be noticed. At first, they watched you with suspicion, not because you broke the rules, but because you refused to play their game. You moved differently, thought strategically, built quietly. And now, the system doesn't see you as a threat. It sees you as a signal. You've been tagged as unknown but important. They couldn't predict you, so they started following you, not to shut you down, but to learn. The very agents who were sent to track you are no longer taking orders. They've flipped. They're standing behind you now. Why? Because power that can't be controlled gets followed. You're not here to fit in. You're here to shift the landscape. Before we get into what happens next, take 10 seconds to do 3 things. Hit that like button to push this message further. Subscribe to help us reach 5,000 subscribers, and leave a comment. Let them know you're not just watching. You're part of the movement. This is just the beginning. Let's move. From the moment you stepped into the arena, you weren't just another player. You were an anomaly. Everyone around you expected you to follow the predictable path, but you chose to carve your own way. That unpredictability made the watchers uneasy. They labeled you a risk, a disruptor, a challenge to the status quo. But what they failed to realize was that their fear was a badge of honor, proof that you were operating beyond their limited expectations. You became more than a target. You transformed into a symbol of change. The system that once sought to suppress you now found itself defining you as a benchmark, the very embodiment of what the future could look like if old rules were broken. Your actions sparked a new narrative within their ranks, a mission statement born not of control, but of respect for your disruptive power. It's the kind of story that makes people sit up and listen, because it reminds us all that sometimes being labeled a threat isn't a setback. It's a signpost for greatness. History is full of figures who were misunderstood at first, but eventually became the standard others aspired to follow. And now, your journey is exactly that, a testament to breaking free and rewriting the rules. At first, you moved quietly, under the radar, unnoticed by the system's watchful eyes. But as your presence grew, you didn't just register, you resonated. You became the frequency that couldn't be ignored, the signal that disrupted the static of everyday operations. Where others tried to blend in, you tuned into a channel all your own, one that challenged conventional thinking and demanded attention. This transformation wasn't accidental. It was born out of relentless focus, strategic patience, and the refusal to be silenced. You didn't seek to be noticed for vanity. You wanted to shift paradigms. And as your influence expanded, those who once overlooked you scrambled to recalibrate their understanding of power, realizing it wasn't about control, but about connection. It's a profound shift, moving from invisibility to indispensability. You've become the heartbeat of change, an electric pulse that drives innovation and forces old systems to adapt or collapse. This kind of energy is magnetic and contagious. It inspires others to rise, to find their own frequency, and to break free from the noise. In the beginning, you were watched with suspicion, every move analyzed, every step shadowed. They treated you like a variable to be controlled, a problem to be solved. But as the story unfolded, it became clear you were no problem at all. You were an asset, a strategic advantage they never anticipated but couldn't ignore. This shift from being surveilled to being valued is profound. It's the moment when fear gives way to respect and suspicion evolves into reliance. The people who once sought to contain you began to see your potential to elevate the entire system. You weren't just surviving their scrutiny, you were mastering it, turning their focus into fuel for your growth. Such transformations are rare and remarkable. They show that even in the most rigid structures, flexibility and vision can prevail. Your journey from a watched outlier to a trusted resource is a story of resilience and brilliance, a reminder that those who dare to be different often become the greatest assets of all. There's a moment in every great struggle when the forces aligned against you realize they're no longer winning. They try to box you in, restrict your movements, control your influence, but their efforts only reveal their limitations. When they recognize that resistance is futile, the system doesn't just lose, it surrenders. This isn't defeat. It's a powerful acknowledgement of your strength. It's when the old guard bows to the new order, when outdated frameworks collapse under the weight of innovation. The system, once confident in its power, admits that it cannot contain what you've become. In this surrender, there's liberation. For you and for everyone who's watched your rise. It's proof that persistence and ingenuity can rewrite any narrative, and it sets the stage for a new era where the impossible becomes possible, simply because someone refused to back down. Initially, their eyes were cold, their intentions wary. You were a mystery they wanted to decode, a challenge to their control. But as you moved forward, your vision became clear, your actions deliberate and inspiring. The same people who once trailed your steps in suspicion found themselves walking behind you, not as captors, but as believers. This is the essence of true leadership, transforming doubt into trust, suspicion into loyalty. Your journey rewrote the narrative from hunted to hero, showing that influence isn't demanded, it's earned through integrity, courage, and relentless authenticity. It's a remarkable reversal that resonates deeply. It reminds us that when we stand firm in our truth, even those who oppose us may find themselves drawn in, compelled to support the change we represent. What started as an attempt to intercept, control, or stop you only ended with others learning from you. Their strategies aimed to halt your momentum, but instead they became lessons in your playbook. The people who sought to derail your path now study your moves, eager to understand the formula behind your success. This shift from opposition to admiration is more than tactical. It's emotional. It speaks to the power of persistence and ingenuity, how a single determined individual can transform skepticism into curiosity and eventually into respect. The act of taking notes is a silent acknowledgement that you are setting new standards. Inspiring others through your resilience and strategy redefines what it means to lead. You didn't just survive an attempt to block you, you became the benchmark others want to emulate. At first, badges represented barriers, symbols of authority, standing against you, but when they finally glimpsed your blueprint, your vision, everything changed. Those badges that once stood in opposition began to symbolize alliance, solidarity, and shared purpose. This transformation is profound. When people recognize the brilliance of your approach, their allegiance can pivot overnight. The system doesn't always reject innovation. Sometimes it waits for proof. Once your blueprint became undeniable, the very institutions that resisted you chose to embrace you as one of their own. It's a testament to the power of clarity, strategy, and unwavering belief. When your blueprint inspires others, it builds bridges, turning former adversaries into collaborators and opposition into partnership. You weren't just another recruit. You became the reason everyone else showed up. Instead of conforming, you flipped the entire mission on its head. The agency's focus shifted from enforcing rules to achieving the vision you embodied. You weren't a participant. You were the purpose. This shift is monumental. It means you aren't just following orders. You're setting the agenda. The narrative changes from compliance to leadership, from being a cog in the machine to being the engine driving it forward. Your journey reminds us all that true impact comes when you become the objective that others rally behind. It's a rare and powerful place to be, where your presence creates meaning beyond yourself. What began as cautious observation has evolved into admiration, bordering on reverence. The watchers have become followers, the skeptics turned believers. You've inspired awe, not just through your actions, but through the unwavering conviction that fuels them. This transition from being monitored to being admired taps into something deeply human: the desire to be seen, respected, and understood. When people start to worship your vision, it's because you've touched something profound: hope, possibility, and the promise of transformation. It's not about idolization, it's about connection. You've created a movement, a legacy that transcends mere accomplishment and speaks to the power of authentic leadership. Unlike those who receive step-by-step instructions, you forged your path by broadcasting your truth loudly and clearly. You didn't wait for permission or guidance. You announced your presence, your intentions, and your vision for all to hear. This boldness disrupted expectations and rewired the system's approach. You set the agenda on your own terms, making sure your message wasn't just heard, but felt. broadcasting instead of briefing means you lead by example, not by order. When you stepped back from the noise, the system had no choice but to recalibrate, to consider new possibilities, and reimagine its own limits. This kind of impact is subtle, yet seismic. It's about influence without words, power without noise. Your silence became a statement, a catalyst that shifted paradigms and unsettled assumptions. It teaches us that presence isn't always about volume. Sometimes the most profound shifts happen in the quiet moments where others are forced to listen and reflect. After countless attempts to anticipate your next move, the system stopped trying to forecast your actions. Instead, they embraced a new role, guardians of your vision. They shifted from trying to control you to safeguarding your influence. This change is monumental. It signals trust born from respect, a recognition that your power is not a threat, but an asset worth preserving. When protectors replace pursuers, it marks the beginning of a new alliance, one built on belief rather than fear. It shows the transformative power of persistence and integrity, proving that the greatest way to change minds is to embody a force worth defending. Labels and categories are for those who follow orders. You've transcended classification. You're now the one giving commands. Your presence demands action. Your vision sets priorities, and your influence directs the course. This elevation is rare and significant. To be commanded is to hold authority that others willingly acknowledge, driven not by hierarchy, but by respect and conviction. It means you're no longer a subject of study. You are the strategist shaping the future. It's a powerful position that reminds us leadership is less about titles and more about impact, presence, and the ability to inspire others to follow. What once raised alarms now triggers opportunity. Your journey from being seen as a red flag to becoming a covert asset shows how perspective changes when results speak louder than warnings. You evolved from a potential risk to an indispensable force. This transformation is a masterclass in resilience and strategic adaptation. You didn't let fear define you. Instead, you used it as a springboard to prove your value beyond any shadow of doubt. It reminds us that what scares the system today can become its greatest advantage tomorrow, if only we have the courage to push through. The final and perhaps most remarkable chapter of your story is not just survival, it's transformation. The very people who once sought to capture you have now become your allies, your partners, your believers. They didn't trap you. You turned the tables, converting opposition into support. This is the ultimate triumph. It's the moment where conflict evolves into collaboration, where barriers crumble under the weight of undeniable vision and integrity. You changed the game so profoundly that the players switched teams, inspired by the power of your conviction. Your journey is a beacon for anyone facing resistance, showing that true leadership turns enemies into champions and obstacles into stepping stones. From the very beginning, you weren't made to follow the crowd or adhere to the expected. Society often rewards conformity, but your nature is different. It's revolutionary. Being the outlier isn't a flaw, it's your strength. You were engineered for innovation, for shaking foundations, for challenging limits. Others accept without question. Breaking the mold means facing resistance, skepticism, even hostility. But it also means creating space for new possibilities where none existed before. Each step you took outside the norm was a step toward building a legacy no one else dared to dream. Those who stick to the mold see you as unpredictable, maybe even dangerous, but you know that danger is simply the price of transformation. You're the spark that lights fires others are too afraid to start. Being true to your authentic self means redefining success on your own terms. It's a reminder that the world doesn't change by replicating the past, but by embracing bold new visions. You're living proof that innovation requires courage, not compliance. Rules exist to create order, but sometimes they become shackles that bind potential. You've witnessed how rigid frameworks can limit growth, stifle creativity, and breed complacency. Instead of getting trapped in the web of rules, you chose to lead with vision, a compelling idea that inspires change, even when the rules say otherwise. Vision is the force that turns impossible dreams into tangible realities. While others debate protocols, you focus on the future, moving with intention toward goals only you can see. This ability to look beyond the present is what separates pioneers from followers. Rules will try to catch up, but vision sets the pace. It calls for courage to stand apart, often in solitude, knowing that real progress happens on untrodden ground. Vision is contagious. It invites others to dream bigger and believe in what seems unattainable. Your leadership shows that when rules fail, vision doesn't just take over, it redefines the entire game. Many start their journeys feeling isolated, misunderstood, or out of sync with their environment. You were once that lone wolf, moving quietly, charting your own path, unsure if anyone would ever follow. But what began as solitude evolved into strength, and that strength birthed leadership. Legendary leaders don't just command attention, they inspire devotion. Your transformation reflects a journey from solitary struggle to collective influence. You didn't need a crowd at first, you only needed clarity of purpose, and that purpose attracted others, building a tribe united by shared vision and trust. Leadership is not about authority, it's about responsibility. You carried the burden of paving the way so others wouldn't have to face the same battles alone. That courage forged loyalty and respect beyond what rules and titles could ever command. Your story teaches us that leadership often starts in isolation, but grows in connection. It reminds us that greatness begins when you embrace your uniqueness and use it to uplift others. Doubt is inevitable when you challenge the norm. It creeps in during quiet moments, whispering that maybe you're alone or that the risk isn't worth it. But instead of letting doubt derail you, you transformed it into fuel, igniting a fire that propelled you forward when others would have given up. This process is deeply human and profoundly powerful. Doubt becomes a companion, not an enemy. It sharpens your focus, forces you to question assumptions, and fuels relentless determination. Without it, your journey wouldn't be as rich or meaningful. Stories of success often mask the internal battles fought along the way. Your resilience in the face of uncertainty makes your achievements resonate more deeply. It's not just what you accomplish, but how you confront your inner fears that defines your legacy. Doubt can either imprison or empower. You chose empowerment. Your journey is a testament to the strength found in vulnerability and the power of choosing hope over hesitation. Pressure is often viewed as a threat, something to avoid or escape. But pressure is also a force that shapes character, sharpens resolve, and reveals true potential. You've learned to embrace pressure, transforming it into a source of power rather than a cause of stress. Every challenge, every moment of high stakes pushed you to innovate, adapt, and elevate your game. Instead of breaking under pressure, you used it as a forge to strengthen your vision and commitment. This mindset shift redefined your relationship with adversity. The ability to harness pressure is what sets trailblazers apart. It turns obstacles into stepping stones and setbacks into comebacks. Your story illustrates how the weight of expectations can become wings that lift you higher. Your journey encourages others to rethink their own struggles, seeing pressure not as a burden, but as an invitation to grow and excel. Fear is a universal experience. It signals danger, uncertainty, and risk. Yet, fear doesn't have to be the enemy. You chose to embrace fear, allowing it to guide rather than paralyze you. By confronting what scared you most, you unlocked doors to opportunities others never dared to explore. Fear sharpened your senses,